So we want to start the next session, which is a partnership. Okay, this session will be cooperation with the partners, particularly in Japan. And the first speaker is Professor Toshio Yamagata, and also the leader of this session. When you are ready, please go ahead.
Just a second.
Thank you, Mr. I'm Toshio Yamagata. I will chair this Japanese session. I'm already semi-retired, so if I have some problem, please help me. And I'd like to thank the organizing committee for giving me a wonderful opportunity to talk about the international cooperation on this particularly important occasion just prior to the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And since Professor Michida asked me to talk about Japanese early involvement in the international partnership, so I will try to shed light on contributions by our pioneers right after the Second World War II. I hope this attempt to study the past may contribute, hopefully, to a new innovative idea on data management. And during my preparation, lasted until yesterday night, I have realized several dilemmas exist between research and its dissemination, and between research and its operation. Both the technological progress and the societal awareness of the importance of change, in addition to variability, have provided a happy merger of those. I think the outstanding roles of IODE is very important in promoting this happy merger further. So let me start my talk. So I repeat, these outstanding roles of IODE promote and coordinate internationally ocean research, observations, data management, capacity building to understand and manage better world oceans and coastal zones for well-being of humankind. Everything is in it. Dilemma is in it between understand and manage, and also science, and also for well-being of humankind in society. Now, let's go back to more than 300 years ago. There is some discussion about open science in Francis Bacon. In 1620, Francis Bacon wrote in his book entitled The Great Instauration, as in the following. I'll read. Lastly, I would address one general admonition to all that they consider what are the true ends of knowledge, and that they seek it not either for pleasure of the mind, or for contention, or for superiority to others, or for profit, or fame, or power, or any of these inferior things, but for the benefit and use of life, and that they perfect and govern it in charity. So this issue of open science is not new. There is the conflict at all levels between the desire for profit and the open dissemination of knowledge in society. This is particularly the case in which we are in danger. The reason d'etre of science is certainly to explore unknown things in nature and contribute to the well-being of society by disseminating the knowledge. However, there is always a gap between curiosity-driven science and science for operational public services. Marine science is not an exception, which led Professor Koji Hidaka, one of the most outstanding physical oceanographer in Japan, to another dilemma. Hidaka has two dilemmas. One is he's a physical oceanographer try to understand the transport circumpolar circulation, Antarctic circumpolar circulation. And he reached 500 swirl-ups, just considering wind-driven stress. But actually, actual transport is about 100 or 150 swirl-ups, and that's a dilemma. Now we know there is a bottom pressure torque interaction between our fluid and also rotating Earth is very important. That's a bottom pressure torque. I prefer J-bar concept anyway. Just following the swirl-up concept is wrong, completely wrong. So I'll show the unsung nowadays, Professor Hidaka's book. Koji Hidaka published a book, and this is title of Japanese, 海洋学との40年. That means 40 years with oceanography, and published 1968. And Hidaka is very well known for its theory of ocean circulation, just at the same time of the Henry Stommel or Walter Munk. And he established also Ocean Research Institute, now Atmosphere Ocean Research Institute of University of Tokyo in 1962. And also he established Hidaka Marine Science Foundation for Society. And right now I'm the president of this society. And now our name changed into Japan Marine Science Foundation. And also we introduced later on Japan Oceanography Society's Hidaka Prize. And the medal is like that, in memory of his outstanding contribution to ocean science. So Japan's contribution to international expeditions after the World War II was as a country's general policy to revive the international peaceful partnership, particularly in the field of science. That's a country's policy after war. And we born after that, and we spent almost 70 years for the world community. Unfortunately, some countries completely forgot my generation's activity. That's a problem for me. Anyway, 1953, Roger Rubel, may you know, outstanding scientist, director of SIO, visited Japan and proposed a multilateral US, Canada, Japan observation program for the North Pacific. And Kanji Suda, director of Hydrographic Department, Maritime Safety Agency, responded to this very positively based on our country's new policy and decided to join the program, which was realized as a NOPAC in 1955. I just describe the details here. No need to go into details. Anyway, this led us to the Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific road to IOC and SCORE. 1955, I already mentioned, NOPA cruise was realized. And quite interestingly, this was for studies of fishery problems, societal problems. In October, there was an important meeting in our community, world community, at the International House of Japan at Torizaka, still there, near here. And the UNESCO symposium was held there, and two meetings, one for the East Asian Regional Oceanography, and another for IOCOM's, International Advisory Committee on Marine Science inauguration. And two leaders was very active. One is our Koji Hidaka, and another one's Danish marine biologist Anton Blum, quite well known in IOC. And I found, after checking the details, I found a very interesting name. You can see, encircled by red line, Klaus Wiltke. Klaus Wiltke worked hard for this, and he published Naga report, his outstanding scientist, to discuss El Nino, right? And based on those meetings, UNESCO established IOCOMS based on the proposal of Japan. In 1956, next year, meeting held in Lima, Peru, And that was the first session of IOCOMS. And it's formulated a number of recommendations, international recommendations, concerning the potential role of UNESCO in marine sciences. And they started also ECOPAC, cooperative study of Pacific Equatorial Zone cruise. And this is a game by United States, Japan, and France. 1957, a score was established. And this is very important for academic community of ocean science. And at the same time, International Geophysical Year, almost all geophysicists know this. Russia successful in launching Sputnik, and the US are a little bit after that. And Van Allen belt was discovered. So satellite era started. And this is another important thing for geophysicists and oceanographers. And in November, the second session IOCOMS reviewed the general policy of marine science programs of UNESCO and recommended a major project to start. But a crack is caused between the process-oriented oceanography and the operational oceanography here. You can see I put that in 1960, intergovernmental conference, intergovernmental and also academics, sometimes have a friction. And Ocean Research, ICAR, recommended setting up within the framework of UNESCO an Intergovernmental Oceanography Commission, and IOC was established. Again, also Japanese delegate contributed a lot for establishment of IOC, but it's not oceanographer. And that generated a problem in Hidaka's mind. In 1961, the IOC First Assembly was held and chaired by Anton Blum, Denmark, and Ulster became the first secretary of IOC. And they started Indian Ocean Expedition, IIOE-1, but now we have very important IIOE-2, and perhaps this will lead to the next decade of marine science. But look at this, Indian Ocean bubble. Who said this? This was said by Henry Stonewall. Henry Stonewall, collaborator of Hidaka, both likes process-oriented study, genuine science, and hesitated to accept any official positions, right? And Hidaka also left because some kind of regular section, government-related oceanographers started just a regular section, and that irritated Stonewall and Hidaka. But more than half a century later, we now have almost a happy merger of those process-oriented oceanography and operational oceanography. This is mostly due to the rapid technology development in remote in-situ measurement systems, computer simulation, and data simulation, particularly for predicting future state of the ocean. And also recognition of importance in monitoring changes as well as studying variability has been another impetus in a call to progresses in our understanding of ocean state. I must cite the important activity by Jotaro Masuzawa. He was a physical oceanographer, and the first physical oceanographer. He became the Director General of the Japan Meteorological Agency. And he started 137° east repeat section in 1967. And I cited the picture here. And when I joined the Tonga activity, I was often criticized by American colleagues, process-oriented people, outstanding people. Why Japan continues such silly repeat sections always? But now time has changed. That kind of repeat section caught the change of the ocean state. So this kind of operational oceanography is very important. People now start realizing this. So in that sense, Jotaro Matsuzawa is outstanding scientist also. Now, let me go to the space. You can see this is a Cassini's picture, photo, and Earth is somewhere there, just a dot, small dot. Well, by the way, several days later, our space mission, the very remarkable things, they run in a small piece of rocks somewhere far away. So quite an interesting one. Anyway, during just the Cold War period, 1961, John F. Kennedy gave an address entitled "The U.S. Challenge, a Peace Race." I hope the current president listened to this one, I hope. U.S. challenge, real challenge, a peace race. And I found a very impressive paragraph in his address. Today, every inhabitant of this planet must contemplate the day when this planet may no longer be habitable. Every man, woman, and child lives under a nuclear sword of Damocles, hanging by the slender threads, capable of being cut at any moment by accident or miscalculation or by madness. Now, just to change a few words, we can completely adopt the same word of JFK. More than half a century later, we now have another sword of Damocles, which is a global change, mostly due to anthropogenic origin. So even if the Paris Agreement is satisfied, and you're successful in keeping a global temperature rise in this century well below 2 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels. But we have a lot of amazing positive feedbacks, particularly various biogeochemical positive feedbacks may have possibility leading us to the hothouse. And you can visit this important paper recently published by Stefan in PNAS. So how to steer our Earth system or our ocean to a sustainable trajectory? And it's important to change our values and code of conduct, social systems, economic systems, and others. And that's why the ICSU had a merger with ISSC, and they changed the title ISC. And also they are very eager to establish Future Earth program. And this is academic response to SDGs. Even if heading for a relatively reasonable path, we enter into very, very hothouse conditions. So adaptation and mitigation measures will be very important. And enhancement of resilience to extreme events will be particularly important. And in this sense, prediction activity based on the data and data assimilation is very important. So just I wrote a Future Earth program led by ISC to develop the knowledge for responding effectively to the risks and opportunities of global environmental change and support societal transformation toward global sustainability in coming decades for wellness and well-being of all living creatures. And by the way, Jeffrey Sachs wrote a very interesting note, and he discussed importance of data. The success of SDGs will depend on the ability to harness data for decision making and to invest in building innovative data systems that draw on new sources of real-time data and create an active link between the provision of services, and the collection and processing of data. Just IODE initiative. And just I will show the recent work done by Miyazawa, my colleague, for ocean prediction. He asked strict shear water bores to measure ocean. And this is the GPS data locations during a period of 10 days in 2010. She bores everywhere. And there is some kind of measurement, small one, on the shoulder, and measured. And the habitat area like this covers all Western Pacific. So we must be helped by seabirds. So that's another direction, IODE. And Asia Pacific, we live in Asia Pacific. We have suffered a tremendous agony of natural disasters, monsoon, El Nino, or Indian Ocean dipole. So Asia is located at the most active natural social crossroad of global and regional phenomena events. Therefore, success of regional implementation IOC, IODE initiatives is severely tested in the Asia Pacific region. And I think it's important. Okay, time is already over, so I must rush to my goal. Anyway, natural catastrophes, and I try to show the Asia, there's a lot of disasters. And such as Philippines hit by the super typhoon. But now we are successful in introducing some kind of climate prediction system and ocean prediction system to some extent. 3 months later, 9 months later, we know the conditions. This purple and green is more than 60% or 90% successful. We can capture the future. Right panel is the precipitation. So we must have a merger of the prediction system and data acquisition and data assimilation. So again, I'll come back to the original outstanding roles, IOC, IODE. So UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development will be an epoch-making event to consolidate the IOC, IODE leadership. Thank you very much. So I'm very sorry, but next speaker is the Mr. Yosuke Sakurai, ESRI Japan Corporation. He will talk about the utilization of maritime spatial data in GIS. Please.
こんにちは。すみません。日本語で失礼させていただきます。はい。それでは、S3 ジャパン株式会社の櫻井と申します。本日は GIS 分野における海洋データの利活用と題しまして、民間の地理情報を扱う GIS のベンダーである弊社の方から、利活用の例をご紹介させていただきます。まず簡単に、弊社の、自己紹介のところですけれども、ご存知の方もいらっしゃれば嬉しいんですけれども。
And we are providing the ArcGIS, which is the platform of GIS, which can utilize the geospatial the information at the maximum level. And not only the GIS, but also we are providing various the geospatial information using cloud and the on-premise servers. And we take up various data, and then it will be provided to various forms in desktop, mobile, and web browsers. So far, you needed to do this, needed to have the server, and then the distribution was conducted. However, because of the advancement of the cloud computing, and we are also embracing the cloud technology as well. So we would like to focus on the oceanographic information and the overseas company or the countries, on the GIS platform, the various geographic oceanographic information is utilized. And for example, in the field of visualization of the spatial information, the GIS system is conducted in the industrial field, and we are doing the mapping of the owner information of the area in terms of the development of the offshore power generation, and we are also our service is also utilized for the mapping of the pipeline and the underground cable, and then the real-time information is on the one spatial piece of information, and this has been used for a long time, and this is the role of GIS, I believe. And from now on, we are going to talk about the GIS ARC platform to be utilized for the utilization of the oceanographic data. And first of all, those scientific data are multidimensional data. That means the time, and in addition to the X and the Y direction, and the time and the depth and the temperature and the pressure, and multidimensional information will be generated. And in GIS, it can be expressed in two-dimensionally, and depending on the chronological order, the expressions can be changed, and the depth and the current, if the direction is necessary, we can express it graphically. And those multidimensional data are the oceanographic data and the climate data. In the case of the land data, it is utilized for the soil and the NDVI and the land cover and so on. It is not the ocean, but it is about the climate. And the JAXA, the Japanese Space Organization, is providing the precipitation data. This is visualized. What is in the red is the strong precipitation, and then it occurred Hurricane Irma, and the precipitation information is expressed in GIS. So, multidimensional the information are utilized for oceanographic data as well. It may be difficult to see, however, it's about the current, and the arrow shows the tidal direction, and then the bicolor strength is shown, and horizontally that's time, and the vertically the depth is shown, and this is the information of the ocean of the temperature. And if what is in orange and red, and the water temperature is high, and it is shown in on the image, but what's in between the contour is shown here. By doing so, and it is easier to understand for non-familiar people, and then the time and the depth of the sea is shown here. Next one, and real-time data. And recently, because of the advancement of ICT and from various the sensors, the tremendous amount of data can be taken. And in our daily life, the smartphone, the GPS information, and the airplane, the wake information, and the location information of the vessels, they can be taken, and we can visualize them in a dynamic manner, and then the computation is possible, and this is done by GIS. So this one is using certain GIS information, and then the location information of the vessel is shown. What is in yellow is a vessel, and once this vessel comes into some area, and the intrusion into a certain area will be the trigger, and then the color will be changed, and then using the real-time information, and speed of each vessel will be shown on the dashboard, and at the same time, and the trajectory on the route of the move of the vessel can be left, and not only the geographic information, but the real-time information will be compiled and then visualized, and then the spatial treatment will be conducted. And this one, and the vessel information, and they will collect it from the satellite and so on. However, the exclusive data will be expressed in GIS as well. And next one, and the utilization of the measured data or survey data. In the case of the sea area, and the bathymetric chart is important. And for example, the coastal erosion and the signs they will be checked. And in order to do so, drones are utilized. So various measured data will be expressed effectively in GIS. And the representative example is the creation of the bathymetric chart. And recently, using the data, the image data taken by drone, and we are going to use the point cloud data on 3D manner. And for a long time, and the GIS has been good at the image processing. Therefore, the images taken by the drones and the satellites, we will do the analysis for the sea area. And this is to show the result of the depth of the water, and then it is they visualized on 3D. And then the measurement of the depth is conducted, and that piece of information is stored in GIS. And then, so actually, with very light way, and on the web browser, you can see the information like that. Next one, bathymetric chart. So, C doesn't have address or the jurisdictions, and based on the map, and we need to integrate the information, and the maritime chart here is the basic information to carry out the safe navigation. So this is the very basic information. And on the GIS platform, and utilizing the maritime chart, and it will be distributed on the web. And on our ArcGIS platform, and the maritime chart format is distributed by web. And by doing so, as I mentioned earlier, and with mobile and the browser, and in various environments, they can utilize the data and information. And this is one of the snapshots. And they're not only showing the maritime chart, and the components of the maritime chart will be the attribute information, and then based on that attribute, you can do the search. And the maritime chart, and the yellow area here is the area of warning information issued by the Japan Meteorological Agency. And for example, the thick fog and the strong wind information is warned. And then the maritime chart and then those information coming from the meteorological agency will be overlapped. So far, and on the GIS platform, and you can utilize the oceanographic data and other maritime chart data. And I'd like to introduce some success stories. First, this is an example of port, and this is the example of a Rotterdam port. So Rotterdam port, and there is a large part where a lot of vessels come in and out. However, and they cannot expect the extension of the facility. Therefore, there was a challenge to improve the throughput. And they had a very legacy system, and however, they introduced the GIS platform by doing so. And the chart system that was created, the separately or the infrastructure ledger were linked with the maritime chart. And by doing so, and they were able to increase the throughput. And the system was improved. And what was important here is that so various pieces of information can be expressed on the WebGIS. However, and the 3 clicks or the less was necessary in this mission in order to reach the target information. And even though various pieces of information are integrated, and the convenience of the users will not go up until it shortens the time. And within 3 clicks, and the users can reach the target information. That is very good. And I think you are more knowledgeable than myself. And the NOAA of the US, the Access platform is utilized. And the maritime chart will be published to the general public. And the various the history information and the WebGIS information can be viewed from the website for the researchers and the users. Data can be downloaded, and the API will be added as well, and the API is also provided as well. Therefore, and the users that would like to utilize the data itself can be downloaded, and then the API is also provided. Therefore, they can produce another information based on the data and the information disclosed here. And at IHO, they are utilizing the GIS platform. I rushed my presentation, but from the viewpoint of the platformer of GIS, I would like to tell some expectations of the maritime science, information science area. And it is quite important to provide open data for the promotion of the use of the oceanographic information. In the recently, the local communities or the local government would like to expand the open access of the information. And by doing the open access of information, and there will be more benefit to the general public, as NOAA is doing, and the data download and the API should be provided at the same time. And this will be the first step to expand expand the user base. And the industry standard, the data file, data form should be utilized. For example, the shapefile or geodatabase should be utilized. And secondary, the usage and the commercial use should be allowed. And the regulation should be relaxed. Otherwise, and even though the data is open, it will not be utilized. And as Rotterdam Port has that, and it is necessary for the users to reach the information within 3 clicks. Thank you very much.
Sakurai-san, very interesting new technology. And then we'll move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is Mr. Taisei Morishita, Counselor of National Ocean Policy Secretariat, Cabinet Office. And his title is a new basic plan on ocean policy and Japan's efforts for ocean data and information sharing. Please.
Can I ask the person controlling the light to dim it a bit, to make it less strong? Thank you. Do my colleagues are happy with this? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yamagata, for introduction. I'm Taisei Morishita from National Ocean Policy Secretariat, Cabinet Office of Japan. I'm pleased to be here. Such a distinguished conference. As we all know, data and information sharing is indispensable for addressing ocean issues. Recognizing this importance, Japan started a whole government approach for data and information sharing based on ocean policy about 10 years ago. Today, I would like to talk about Japan's ocean policy and our efforts for data and information sharing. Firstly, I briefly explain scheme for implementing Japan's ocean policy. Then I will outline new basic plan. Thirdly, I will focus on data and information sharing. Japan's ocean-related measures are implemented in a comprehensive and systematic manner based on the Basic Act on Ocean Policy enacted in 2007. This Basic Act also obliges us to compile the long-term plan every 5 years, which is called Basic Plan. The most recent plan, which is third plan, was approved by the Cabinet last May. Every ministry and agency is executing its measures in accordance with this plan, which ensures the well-coordinated policy across the board. Regarding the governmental structure, the headquarters for ocean policy was established in order to execute the basic plan and coordinate measures implemented by relevant administrative bodies. My office, National Ocean Policy Secretariat of the Secretariat, served as Secretariat of the headquarters. Next, I will focus on the third basic plan. This plan covers a wide range of ocean policy measures and contains about 370 action items in total. Following 3 slides will show 7 basic policies of the plan. The first point is to promote comprehensive maritime security. This comprehensive maritime security is a new concept specific to this plan. As shown in this diagram, it includes not only core measures of maritime security, such as law enforcement, defense, maritime safety, and disaster response, but also other measures that could contribute to reinforcement of maritime security. I'd like to note that these measures include ocean survey and observation, promotion of science and technology, research and development, and even protection of marine environment. The second is to promote utilization of ocean for the purpose of industries, which includes exploitation of ocean related to energy and mineral resources, use for renewable energy, and appropriate management of fishery resources. The third is to maintain and protect marine environment. In accordance with international frameworks such as SDGs, BBNJ, we do address marine litter problem, including microplastics, and set up appropriate MPAs to assure sustainable use of ocean on the basis of scientific knowledge. The fourth is to improve scientific knowledge by ocean surveys and observation and development of ocean science and technology. Especially, it is important to promote use of satellite data for acquiring information of a global scale. Japan actively participates in various international ocean observation programs. The fifth is to promote Arctic policy. The third basic plan stipulates Arctic policy as one of the main measures for the first time. The government prioritizes scientific research and development and international cooperation for sustainable use of the Arctic. The sixth point is to promote international collaboration and cooperation in order to address regional or global issues related to ocean. In the context of ocean science, Japan contributes to the development of global ocean observation under the international frameworks, including IOC UNESCO. Taking into account the UN Decade of Ocean Science, Japan pursues the SDGs goals on the basis of scientific knowledge. The last point is to develop human resources with knowledge of ocean and advance citizens' understanding. Those 7 policies characterize new basic plan. Now let me move on to the data and information sharing based on the basic plan on the ocean policy. Data and information sharing is the basis for science-based decision-making. In the last decade, Japan has been working for the data and information sharing in accordance with the basic plan on ocean policy. Establishment of JODC in 1965 marked the beginning of the ocean data management in Japan. Since then, JODC has been in charge of data management and data exchange among agencies and countries. However, the first version of the basic plan, formulated in 2008, explicitly stipulated what this slide shows. Let me read a little bit. A system should be developed to integrate and provide marine-related information now dispersed among agencies with a view to organizing such information efficiently and rationally in a user-friendly manner, blah, blah, blah. So I guess this might be partly because those who are not familiar with ocean data became to want to ocean data in the context of growing interest in ocean. So what we constructed as the first step for the data and the information sharing is Marine Information Clearing House. Under the ministerial coordination by the Cabinet Office, Japan Coast Guard started operation of this clearinghouse in 2010. As all you know, clearinghouse provides not data itself, but metadata. Besides, even if users get real data from the data owners, users without data handling skills cannot make data visualized. Then, as the next step, JOGC, Japan Coast Guard started a web GIS service, Marine Cadastre, in 2011. It is a kind of MSDI in Japan, and without special skill for data visualization, it can display and overlay various information that users want. For this service, JCG has made great efforts to gather information from other agencies, local governments, and private sectors. As shown in this image, this service is used for selecting suitable site for offshore wind power system, as well as for planning other civil engineering works and for marine leisure activities. Now we are trying to develop the marine cadastre according to the new basic plan. There are two essential elements to be improved. One is to deal with real-time information, in other words, time-dependent information. Needless to say, our ocean challenges, such as SDGs, need to be aware of the current ocean situation. Besides, remote sensing and other autonomous observations produce a massive amount of data by the minute. And such data are becoming to be transferred in near real-time manner. Information assembling, therefore, should be done without a significant delay. However, Marine Cadastre can deal with only static data, which does not change much with time. The other element is to expand the geographical scope to the whole Earth. Marine Cadastre geographically covers only the area of national jurisdiction. So this is a new web GIS service, MSIL. We called this MSIL. It is under construction by Japan Coast Guard, and it is coming in this spring. This service can deal with real-time information and has a global geographical scope. In order to reduce the time gap between data acquisition and data assembling, MSIL can simply mash up information which data owner organizations release to public through the internet. We expect that MSIL has a wider range of application fields than the current marine cadastre. It can deal with information of a global scale, so we will push forward international collaboration for data sharing. This is my last slide. In addition to archive data, real-time data are getting more and more important for addressing the ocean challenges. Now, the new WebGIS service, MCO, which will go live in this spring, is expected to raise awareness of current situation in the ocean and contribute to the implementation of the ocean measures. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Morisa-san, for updating our information on the new basic plan of the ocean policy and also new MC services. So next, I'd like to move on the next speaker, Mr. Tatsuya Watanabe, Director for Ocean Deep Sea Research, Ocean and Earth Division, Research and Development Division, next. And his title is Japan's Contribution to UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Please. よろしくお願いします。
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm aware that I've already run out my time, but may I go in my presentation? Yeah. Thank you for the introduction, Professor Yamagata. So I will talk about Japan's contribution to UN Decade of Ocean Science for SD. And my name is Tatsuya Watanabe, as introduced, and I'm Small Director for Deep Sea Earth Scientific Research in the next. Okay, I go in a very lean, short script version. Contribution from Japan. Yeah, this is the structure of my presentation. I am in charge of the international affairs and the ocean scientific drilling in the Sea and Earth division of the next. But because I got involved into the process of the IOC, I think I have to be clear about the Japan's contribution for that decade. And the second part will be very brief because of the Councillor Morishita's presentation was very comprehensive. Third, that is the kind of personal view on how the contribution will be collated and further forged. Yeah. So the parenthesis one is a prelude part and now ongoing. This conference itself, I appreciate the efforts made by the Japan Coast Guard, Hydrographic and Oceanographic Department for organizing this event. Very successful one. Regarding 1B, I understand that the UN University located in Tokyo and the IOC Secretariat and the MEXT ministry found very common interest on ocean literacy, damage and risk reduction against disasters, including tsunami, and decade of ocean science. So if this one is successful and fruitful, or more opportunities may be explored. I hope it will happen. And second, number 2A is kind of the commitment of the Japanese government to offer the host 3-day regional consultation workshop in Tokyo for the North Pacific Ocean Basin. in this summer. And it will be organized by IOC West Park. And I heard this will be the first regional consultation workshop for the decade process. So it will be a good test for us. And then consultation is going on between the IOC Secretariat and Japan on to A and B. B is for the material for the outreach or the publicization. A very concrete contribution. Then this slide, is what Japan provided in terms of expertise directly relevant to the planning process. The 3A, the member to the EPG, Dr. Uematsu over there, he will speak in the first presentation in the afternoon. And the others, I believe, more or less relevant to the decade and its planning process as appeared in the presentation by Dr. Ryabinin at the very beginning of this meeting. Sorry, I have not listed the name of that expert here, but the main player is Dr. Shira, Dr. Shirayama of JAMSTEC for the GOSR2, as we saw yesterday, and the our ocean conference, and BBNJ process, and so on. The expert for the capacity development is myself. Then next slide. And what I have to emphasize on this ocean policy of Japan, a basic plan on ocean policy of Japan, the decade is mentioned and well recognized at the point of the last May. There are not so many elements to describe there, but yeah, yes, it is embedded in that basic plan. Then, yes, as Councillor Morishita explained, that the basic plan involves all the ministries, and for the ocean science part, I counted all the 181 items under the 8 ministries. And this is the kind of the all Japan system to cope with the challenge for the ocean science. Then still, yeah, for the excuse me, and for the sustainable development goals as a whole, the government of Japan established a strategy involving, again, all ministers and thus all ministries in December 2016, as shown in this slide. Sorry about so many small letters, but I'd say that there is a kind of coherency between the basic ocean policy and this SDG strategies within the Japanese government. Then I can skip to the next slide. Yeah. So, yes, this is the core slide of this presentation. We will have the decade with the implementation plan aiming at goals and targets with indicators. A lot. Yeah, the 14 has a special emphasis, and we saw the I think the 14 goals out of 17 in our roadmap, revised roadmap for the decade. And yeah, we are very aware of the gap between the targets and indicators. Though, oops. Oh, this way, yeah. But we have those ongoing processes in a kind of very IOC context. I picked up all those programs, and more or less those have the 10-year strategy or targets. And I think the JEVCO is something very special, that because it is very explicit about numerical target. The others do not necessarily have the numerical target, but they more or less they have kind of strategy for 10 years or so. And yesterday morning, when I saw the presentation by Dr. Barbier, could you recall that the cycling chart of the process that will happen during the decade, we will get involved new partners, stakeholders, and we will come up with new troubles and new solutions. So we do not have the real the goal or the outcome, the concrete outcome from the end of decade yet. But now I understand that is a kind of the decade is a much bigger, how to say, the activities that we cannot define the very definite goal yet. Anyway, the programs are designed to contribute to the SDGs, and Japan makes contribution for those activities. And of course, we have other activities, and we have the regular reporting system of the GOSR about the target 14A. Yep. So I believe the colleagues, scientists, in this meeting, not only here, but the other IOC and UN member states and other partners in a very broad sense, must be seeing more or less similar landscape. And we may agree to the necessity and the usefulness of partnership collaboration. And then I believe we need to know what others are doing and need to find how we can collaborate. So now I see that this is the kind of we have to understand what we are doing here and there, and the very first step of that cyclic activities. Yeah, but yeah, I made this presentation last 10 days ago. Then last week, I learned there is kind of new movements from the academies. Probably Dr. Uematsu, Professor Uematsu may explain about that. The Science 20. The Science 20 is the kind of annual conference of the academies of the G20 countries. And they will convene the third conference this March, 6th March in Tokyo. And they are, I think, preparing a kind of communique. Just this year, it is only focusing on oceans. The science academies, not only in Japan, but all over the G20, agreed to take only the ocean for this time. And the communique will be handed to the Prime Minister of Japan, the chair of the G20 for this July in Osaka. And what I mean is that, yes, these items are very IOC context things, but at the backdrop of these activities, we have big support from the academies and probably the society as well. Yeah. I'm running out of my time. Oh, yes, sorry, yeah, collaboration. Partners will be much broader. And yeah, I skipped this slide. Yeah, making GeoSR is a kind of daunting job for the bureaucrats. For steps forward, for Japan, centralized solar initiatives are very unlikely, and correlation of relevant activity is necessary and plausible, and then need to explore ways to forge another additional activities specific for the decade, much more than the programs. Then at this point of time, I can say that productive interaction, including exchange of views with well-informed professionals, much appreciated. And during iterative regional and global planning process, and I agree that branding of decade might work as an enticement to get meaningful stakeholders participation and hopefully investment as well. Yeah, thank you. This is my presentation. I thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. 渡辺さん、どうもありがとうございます。
Okay, thank you very much for Professor Yamagata. The morning session is over, and then we can continue this part in the afternoon as well, starting 2:30. Yeah, 2:30. So we have the 1.5 for lunch break. So we'll reconvene the session in the afternoon part, which is a little more international cooperation. So please come back to this room by 2:30. Thank you very much.